Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Pragit Dharmaraja, and we are about to have an exciting discussion with Gehan, Blok, and Dino Corera. This is part of our CDM webinar series, and today is the third live discussions we're going to have. Slim is the apex body for Sri Lankan marketers, and which was founded in 1970 and subsequently incorporated by an Act of Parliament in 1980. We are mandated to uplift the marketing professions in Sri Lanka, thus providing marketing studies and conducting many national level events and projects. So today discussion will be about the history about Gehan and Dino. Then we'll be getting into few interesting things about how they became the YouTubers. To start off, I like to ask this first question from Gehan. So Gehan, what was the life before becoming a sensational YouTuber? So how did everything started?
Blok, I think you're on mute. Gehan, I think you're on mute.
Gehan, on mute.
Okay, is it okay now? Okay, sorry,
Yes.
mate. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Slim, thank you, Pragit. And just to give you an idea of what, where we come from. First of all, I'd like to say that we really don't like being called YouTubers. We'd rather prefer the term content creators. No, Dino.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we prefer being called content creators. But yeah, life before this was very different. Like, I mean, if you ask me straight after school that, would you have always wanted to be a content creator? I had no clue what the hell I wanted to do. And I'm sure neither did Dino. But straight after school, we got into theater and we started acting on stage. And we started acting in commercials, TV commercials, while doing a corporate job. Because I did CIM at the time. So I have one qualification in life, one academic qualification, which is CIM. So basically, my background is from marketing. So, but to pay for that CIM qualification, I had to do all these odd jobs in the sense, put my skills to work, like voiceovers, TV commercials, going and acting in it. You make, let's say, some sort of amount from a commercial, you get yourself a laptop and stuff like that. It was like that at that point. But at the time I got a job. I landed a job as head of digital at Vijaya Newspapers, which is very good because I got to manage Daily Mirror and Lanka Deepa and all these, online brands at the time. That was in 2011. So I was there for about 8 years. And while I was there, we formed a brand called W Now, which is a content brand, very similar to Now This News. It's basically a copycat of that. And I started experimenting with a few viral videos or viral advertising based content. And a few of them worked, few of them didn't work. And at that same time, one of the clients, I think it was Ceylon Bank, came to Dino and had asked Dino, would you like to do like a branded video? And then Dino and I got together and we sat one day at our place in the evening, not knowing what the hell, we had no clue where we were going to even start. So we started writing this script called How to Balance Your Baba. We didn't even have a title. It was just Ceylon Bank. What was the campaign? Travel the Island campaign viral video. We started writing it. And yeah, and we published it. And when we published it on W Now, because we didn't have a YouTube page or channel or whatever at that particular time, I remember telling Dino, me, pansiyak idhar chayavano chebba, right? And basically, pansiyan neme ek mandanne henu godak share kara, and it became like a huge viral sensation. But to get here, I think it was what paved the way was we acting on stage, acting in TV commercials. Because what happened was, see, when you act on stage, you're very expressive because you're acting to like 600 people. All your, the way you speak, the way your facial expressions is like a bit over the top, because you have to project to 600 people live. Whereas when I went to act in a TV commercial, and if I would give that same expression, the director would be like, hey, adu karan." Because you're used to that on stage. So we learned those things while being at shoots for TV commercials and whatnot, and voiceovers and whatever. So all these skills which we use right now to make Blok and Dino videos stem from all those past experiences we've had on stage, on TV commercials, doing voiceovers. So it's an amalgamation of all of those skills coming into one place, which is now this whole Blok and Dino productions or studios or whatever we're doing at the moment. So it took around 10 years to get here, but finally, we are here. So, and also my marketing qualification also helped. Working with brands and whatnot throughout the years really helped, because obviously just doing a creative concept is won't really work if it doesn't connect to your brand. So we are very, very cautious when it comes to, okay, the creative part is one thing, but also the brand connect is also very, very important, because if the viral video does not work for the brand, they're not going to repeat. And fortunately, all our brands have come back to us, and we've already done 2 or 3 videos for most of our brands, and every time it has worked for them. For example, I can tell you the the interrogation video we did, which was for Trizon, which is an apartment by John Keels. They have sold quite a number of apartments through that video, so which is like a big win for us. So yeah, so journey, that's basically our journey. But how we broke into this was through our stand-up, I would say. In 2016, one of my stand-up clips went viral about the school jokes through Freddie, and after that, that's when the whole popularity thing came to be, and I thought, okay, maybe I can put my face out there, because I think Dino and I were fairly conservative for about 10 years before that, and we didn't want to put our face out there, and we didn't want to we didn't want to try out anything like this and become a YouTuber or whatever. So we're a bit reclusive in that sense, but I think that's what helped us break break that whole vibe of, okay, I don't want to become a public face, or I don't want to be popular through YouTube content or video content. But after the stand-up thing went viral, you're like, okay, maybe this
that's potential.
Yeah. So basically that's how it started. But I mean, every time we did this, we had so many like mess ups as well. For example, I remember my first stand-up I tried to do was at the golf club to a bunch of club members. And I tried to copy Rowan Atkinson's one of his like gigs. I just carbon copied it and like adapted it to Sri Lankan stuff, and basically went and did it, and no one laughed. I remember one of the gentlemen there, while I went to the washroom and I was peeing, he came and said, "Son, maybe this is not your thing." Right? I was 21 at the time, and I felt really shit, because it was such a bad, horrible experience, because no one was laughing. Everyone was talking while I was trying to make jokes. And then this uncle came and put the cherry on the cake and said, "Son, maybe this is not your thing. Stop. Let's not do stand up." And after that, I didn't do stand up for about 7 years, I think. So until Freddie. So Freddie was the first this thing. And I remember even before going on stage to do stand up, I remember telling Dominic and all, "Macam mung ina wena ganna." And Dominic said, "Come on, nab, burn karapang, just burn through." And as soon as I went on stage and did that first joke, the St. Thomas's butt joke, and people lost their shit, I was like, oh, yeah. So it was a crazy experience. But all of those things only actually got us here. So it's a long journey, and we have failed quite a bit in the process to get here. So yeah.
So, Dino, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, sure. So my backstory is pretty similar to Gehan's. Anyway, the two of us were kind of alternate versions in two Catholic schools. He was the Peterite compeer, actor, a prefect, guy involved in Shakespeare Intra Club. I was the same at St. Joseph's. Pretty much the only points we bumped into each other in school was we've said this story before at inter-school prefects encounter before the big match. So I didn't like Gehan. Gehan didn't like me. We actually really disliked each other, and we were doing commentary for the match. So every time the Josephians got a wicket, I was like, oh, terrible display by the Peterites. No wonder they are the brother school. And then every time the Peterites scored a boundary, Gehan would be like, how they are schooling us. And we walked away absolutely. We disliked each other. We walked away hating each other. But we reconnected actually at Pusvedilla because we both followed our own journeys in theatre. Gehan worked with multiple directors. I worked with multiple directors. And then we kind of met again on the set of Pusvedilla, which in itself is a legendary franchise. And then I jumped into his car and asked him whether he could drop me. He hated the fact that I did that. But afterwards, in conversation, we realized, we are not too bad. I'm pretty sure we get along, and we've been best of friends since. And that friendship has grown from there on. Actually, the start of the time, the first time we kind of collaborated was we hosted the Joe Pete Big Match press conference. And while hosting it we were called to host it because Gehan was doing his own thing from St. Peter's. I was doing my own thing from St. Joseph's, and they wanted two people to kind of anchor and help build a brand for the big matches. So they said, can you guys kind of collaborate and do something? So over a phone call, we wrote this funny kind of introduction to the players, to the directors, and so on and so forth at the press conference. And that blew up. Then that's when I spoke to Gehan also, and we just had a conversation about, could this be something more? We don't know. We've never tried it. Like he said, as artists, you're very reclusive. You don't tend to like step out of that shell because you're to a certain extent, it's kind of a bit of an inferiority complex. Also, you don't want to be judged and stereotyped. So kind of you want to like let your art speak for itself. But we thought, since it worked, why don't we give it a shot? And at that moment, we got this Ceylon gig, and I called him, and then we wrote it at his house, like in about half an hour to 45 minutes. And we thought, let's give it a shot. And the guy we worked with, Kavindu, who's a DOP or video guy, is still our video guy to date. He's a very good friend. And it kind of snowballed from that point, because once on social media, when you see the numbers, other brands also want to kind of see how they can replicate that success. And from one client, we got recommended to another, and it kind of snowballed from there. So yeah, I guess that's the kind of journey, if at all. Gehan covered most of it. I think I just filled in. So yeah.
So thanks, Gehan, for correcting me. Thanks, Gehan, for correcting me from YouTubers to content creators. So that's my next question is going to be, is like, now the one part of the story, we see so much of people coming and doing YouTube's videos. And when we take you guys actually connect brands and brand storytelling on your videos, where you get a lot of brand endorsements. So question one would be, is that what kind of a challenge that you guys had initially when it's come to moving to digital platforms? And so what's the difference you see as a content creator and a normal YouTuber?
See, two things for us. When we got into this whole thing, the first thing we decided was that we're not going to do the whole traditional take a phone camera and create content off our phones and shit. Because both of us, I mean, before becoming content creators or YouTubers or whatever, our passion is film. So film is our main passion, and hopefully that's where we want to go after this. So what we decided was, we said that, okay, whatever we do, the video is going to be of professional, I mean, at least semi-professional standard, and it's going to be different to what everyone else is doing. So which is why we wanted to get brands on board, because you can't produce it at that level of quality if you don't have a brand on board to pay for it. I think the luxury we have, which certain YouTubers don't have, is that we have a brand that sponsors the content and pays for the production. So we can properly produce it. We can get proper cameramen, proper crew members, proper editors, and get it done. The difference I see is, though, that because we work with brands, sometimes we don't have the same liberties the other YouTubers have. Because obviously when you're working with a brand, you have to be very cautious in what you say or do. Because obviously whatever we say also spirals towards the brand, and if it goes south, because so far it has gone well, but as you guys know, with earned media or viral media or whatever, there are two ways it can end up. One is the positive way, the other is obviously the negative way. So we have to be very careful when working with brands, so that I see is the biggest difference we have. But of course, we're also trying to create some organic content which is not branded, which basically gives us more liberty when it comes to publishing. And that was I think one of our first videos we did like that was the Corona Virinduwa, which both of us just thought meme karamu, because I think it's important that the people out there know what we're dealing with, and how to basically avoid catching the virus. So yeah.
Actually, in addition to the Corona Virindu, we also did the Punchi Dupate Katava one,
Yes.
which was also, that was unbranded. It was there was a lot of garbage and crap on YouTube after the Easter Sunday attacks, and there was a lot of racist rhetoric that was being propagated. So we felt it was a responsibility to cut through the noise and deliver something that kind of fosters unity. So, and as Gehan mentioned, the coronavirus video was another one to make it more memorable and have people connect with the more important message, because more often than not, like, the message gets lost when everybody's saying the same thing. So something memorable was what we wanted to create. In terms of the content also, I think one thing Gehan and I are very fortunate to have is we both come from a journalistic background. Gehan was at the part of the WNL, the Vijay newspaper group. I worked at TNL Radio. I was a news manager for English news for 2 stations before moving into programming and radio, and then social media subsequently. So one thing I think we really appreciated was the fact that we have a good grounding in terms of walking the line and having integrity in what we say, in the sense that it's very easy to say something that's sensationalist without checking the facts, but it's also important to kind of ground that in what's going on, and also try to weave in a message. I mean, a lot of our videos have a socio-political message in it, either through a line or through a scenario, subliminally. Even with some of the brands we've worked with, we've got quite a bit of blame as to why we are working with those brands, because they are stereotyped with a certain ethnicity in Sri Lanka. But we feel it's important to have that equality and equal footing, and we try to maintain that as much as possible in our content. I think that's also something that really differentiates us. Isn't that right, Blocky? Anything to add?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. Usually, as a content creator or as a particular YouTuber, it's people would think that it's very it's not the right move to basically go with certain brands, and that's exactly what happened when we took on Pick Me Food. Basically, where the brand spoke to us, and we also told them, you're going to get a lot of hate. Because I mean, their basic normal posts on restaurants were getting like just unwanted racial comments or racist comments. So what we told them was, don't worry, we've got you covered. We will create something so funny that even the most racist human being out there will watch it, will laugh. He may not particularly share it, but he will watch it. So we created a video of what was that? That was Amma Was for Pick Me Food. And so far it has about 2.5 million organic views on Facebook with no boosting budgets, nothing. It has reached about 3.5 million people on Facebook itself. and it has another 800 something thousand views on YouTube, and even Instagram another 100,000. So it just
Yep.
And it's very evident though that people are watching it, enjoying it, but not sharing it, because a video that has 2.5 million views only has around 11,000 shares. Whereas if you take Punchi Dupate Katha, which we did, which was about the Easter Sunday attack, that has only 600,000 views and like 40,000 shares. So we kind of understood what's happening. So people are watching it, so they're getting served the brand, and probably getting recall as well. So it really worked for the brand. And we once again handled another brand called No Limit, which again had the same problem. I mean, we've been called all sorts of names for basically taking those brands on, but we don't care, because Blok and Dino, as creators, we don't cater to any race, religion. We cater to each and every Sri Lankan in this country, and we will continue to do so without looking at your class, your creed, your whatever. So so basically that's who we are, and that's who we will be until we die.
Back to you, Pragit.
Yeah. Guys, back to you guys. One question.
Yeah.
It's like now, when it's come to now Slim, we do a lot of CDM programs and we do a lot of DDM programs, focusing, developing the factors about how a person should get into digital, how we should do digital marketing, things like that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about all these brands, I believe that most of the time you might have gone through data to understand how the consumer behave, what kind of interactions they do, and things like that. So as a person who wants to getting into digital marketing context, as a person who wants to start a career in digital marketing, what are the advices that you can give being in this particular industry?
So one of the biggest advices I can give, being heading a media company for about 8 years in their digital or whatever, and also handling Blok and Dino, the whole point of digital right now is it's like you have to try something out, burn your fingers, learn from it, and then continue. So for example, you can try some sort of digital tactic today. It will work, it may not work. If it does not work, you basically check, okay, why didn't it work? Was it the audience? Was it my content? Was it how I published it? You figure out all the negatives when it came to why it didn't work. You learn from it, and then you try it again. It's very similar to A/B testing, right? A may work, B may work, you never know, but you have to keep trying, testing, burning your fingers, learning from it, and don't keep doing the same thing, and continue. That's basically what digital marketing is. And if any of whoever's out there who's doing digital marketing, that's one of the best advices I can give. Keep doing it, try the tactic, burn your fingers, learn from it, and move on, and don't try and make that same mistake twice. So yeah, it's all experimental. Experiment as much as you can.
True. And to add to what Blocky said, I think one thing to also keep in mind is that you shouldn't get overly sentimental about things. I mean, numbers don't lie, right? That's one advantage digital has as opposed to other media, which is measured using like sample groups and such. On digital, you have exact statistics as to how many people are watching it, how many people are sharing it. So when you do a piece of content, you can look at the duration, understand how your audience base or response changes based on duration, as an example for what Blocky said. And then you can maybe do 2 videos and see whether the longer format works or the shorter format works, and then base your kind of decision as to what kind of content to create based on that. For us, it's been precarious because we feel the stronger the story is, the duration is irrelevant, and that contradicts what is considered the norm, where shorter content is what's going to be more effective. But I mean, long form can work depending on how strong your story is and how powerful your characters or memorable your characters are. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, another thing is understand what you're really good at, because to see in today's day and age, there are people who are actors, people who are writers, people who are directors, people who are producers, but not everybody is good at everything. So some people are able to kind of get all of that together. But if you feel you're a stronger writer and are a witty writer, don't try to be the person on screen. Write for someone on screen. I think that is something that we don't have here, which is a huge problem, because unfortunately everyone thinks that they're good at everything. Whereas if you look at the industry overseas, you have writers who specialize in writing, you have directors who specialize in directing, producers, actors. Some directors are good at writing, some actors are good at writing, but writers in itself are very proud of their writing. So there's nothing, it's not demeaning in any way to write and produce a great piece of content, because directors and producers and writers are revered as much as the people on screen. So it's important to keep that in mind as to what you're good at, because unfortunately, otherwise you try to do everything and you won't be able to hone your craft and understand what you're really good at and develop it. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Cool.
Pragit?
Yes, that's now one of the things that we have seen recently, guys, is that with COVID, everything has changed. People have moved to more digital platforms. There's so much of disruptions is happening around. And as individuals, like I personally love the video that you did, the COVID Virindua, which was quite viral. So people in this digital space and people who wants to get into digital space, what do you think, what will be the stage after COVID? Now, a lot of people want to discuss what happened after post-COVID scenario. So what's your thought on post-COVID and how digital will gonna work afterwards?
So basically, I think we shot one of our post-COVID videos on Friday, which is going to be our first video, which is coming out next week. And I mean, if you take the 3 videos we did previously, we had a crew of like 16 people almost, camera guys, light guys, all of that. But on Friday, we had only like 4 people, 5 people. Me, Dino, makeup guy, Kavindu,
and
and who else? Yeah,
the lights.
two guys.
Yeah,
lights and sound, direct sound, because we shoot direct sound. So we've had to cut down on the number of people, and also brands come back to us saying, we can't spend that much now because of the virus. So I mean, budgets are cut and whatnot, which we understand, and also we also have to cater to that. And that's basically the new normal even for us. But we'll probably have to look at new options, which is what we're looking at as well in terms of unbranded content. Maybe other formats as well. So that is the new normal, and we are also getting used to it. I think brands will also get used to it. And one of the advantages we have is when TV budgets or radio budgets get cut, hopefully that money will be assigned to us and to digital content, to digital advertising. And if that happens, then we are okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Anything from your side?
Just to add to what Gehan said. But one thing I think this whole lockdown thing taught us is also about how dependent we are on digital content, also to a great extent, because we depended on it a lot for our entertainment. I mean, there's a very interesting statistic Netflix released. There's this movie called Extraction that got 90 million views in its first 4 weeks of release. And this isn't like a major Hollywood Avengers kind of movie. It's basically a standard stock action flick. And 90 million views in 4 weeks kind of shows the power of digitally delivering content, entertainment, infotainment. And I mean, if you look at the statistics, I mean, across the board for things like Netflix, Amazon Prime, even YouTube, we probably noticed a significant surge in terms of how much consumption was there on those platforms. So it goes to show that there is a huge market now and a huge demand for digital content. So in terms of the need is there for content. But as Gehan mentioned, in terms of creating content, if you're working with brands and advertisers, brand partners, and so on and so forth, you need to adjust to kind of accommodate their changes in requirement and their budgets and so on and so forth. But definitely the need for content is there, and there's a huge opportunity to create and release more and more content. Yeah.
Going back to another interesting question where after you brought Netflix, now we see in overseas there's so much of people, uh, there's so much of money being invested on influencers and digital marketing content. But when it's come to Sri Lanka, I don't know whether it's up to the mark on that level. And so there we still see as a country are not into up to digital level yet. So as people who are in this space and who are being one of the influencers, so what are the things that you feel that should be better in Sri Lanka when it's come to digital marketing content, and what kind of things that you expect in the future?
I think the quality of content has to basically, be better. I feel that, I mean, if you go see the trending list on YouTube, pata lajjai me samar veලාවට. Like for example, when we check it out, we're like, yeah, you know, we don't even want to be associated with some of the content on that fucking. I'm sorry, I swear also. But on the trending list, it's like අර මේ කුණු වෙච්ච අඹ ගෙඩි එක්ක හිටියම කුණු වෙනවා කියන්නේ. So ඒ වගේ පොඩි vibe එකක් තියෙනවා. Sometimes when we get on the trending list. So I mean, hopefully quality content creators will break through the crap we have, and hopefully we'll see very good content coming out, and we see that we see very good teledramas coming out like Tanamal Vilakolle, Kumbio, quality productions, and I think the Sri Lankan viewer and the audience is also maturing up a bit, and they're becoming a bit more a bit more choosy when it comes to the content they watch, and a bit more selective, and yeah, a bit more discerning as well. So that's very good to see, and yeah, so that means there is a market for good movies. If we make, like for example, one of the biggest things in Sri Lanka is that everyone says cinema merila, or cinema is dead, like no one goes to the cinema hall anymore to watch movies. You can't blame the viewer in our from our point of view. You can't blame the viewer as well, because if you look at the movies and whatever we have been creating, if it doesn't attract a crowd, it's the content. Like if you make a proper movie, if you market it properly, you can fill a cinema hall. I mean, obviously the infrastructure is also pretty horrible as well for cinema in this country. I mean, in terms of distribution as well. So those things are there, but I mean, if you properly put some effort and find the pulse of the people, or find the pulse of the audience, and create some content for them, which is commercially viable as well, I think we'll see a lot of great content coming out, teledramas to movies to whatnot. You just need to we just need to create an infrastructure that allows for great creators to come out, and one of the best platforms obviously for that is YouTube. You don't need to go to anyone, you don't need to suck up to anyone to get your content out there. If you create something great, you can just put it up on YouTube, and if it's really good, even if you have 0 subscribers today, if the content is really, really good, you will end up with 500,000 views, 1 million views, and nothing can stop you. So if the content is great, that is one of our sciences when it comes to our videos. If the content is amazing, if you have a Facebook page you start today, or a YouTube page, or Instagram, or whatever, it will go viral and it will go to the audience. People will watch it, and people will love it, and they will share it. If it does not happen, then you need to evaluate and see why it didn't happen and what is wrong with the content.
Just to add to what Gehan said in terms of what you asked, Pragit, along the lines of facilities and availability, Gehan was spot on in the fact that no longer do you need to now look for funding, look for producers to make your own piece of content or tell your story. I mean, we've seen some amazing work done with just a shot on an iPhone, because the camera quality is significantly good. It's a storytelling angle that's very important, and that's why you really need to understand like we have sparks. Like Cumbio is just a really good spark. We have spark, but none of it is connected. So there is no follow through. There's no exchanging of ideas. And I think a lot of the time in Sri Lanka, as unfortunately as with a lot of things, is the people who are really good at what they do sometimes are in their own silos because they want to have a bigger say. There is no reaching out. There's no helping. There's no connecting. So if we have to go to the Netflix level, we need to have the production infrastructure that can connect us to that point. We need to have the writing associations that stand up for the writers. We need the actors. We need the directors. We need the cinematographers, guys who have the vision and the eye to shoot a film differently. But there is no educational development. There is no sharing of ideas. Co-development is not happening. So there are people who are creating content in their own silos, but it's not connected. So that's a huge concern and a huge problem. But thankfully, those barriers are being broken with YouTube and so on and so forth. So hopefully what we'll see over the next couple of years is that these independent filmmakers or creators will start improving the standards similar to what we are trying, possibly overtake us and make something even bigger. But that's also what we'd like to see, because it's definitely going to weed out that crappy trending list Gehan mentioned. And that's something we'd like to see 5-10 years down the line. We don't want to see racist videos, bigoted videos, things that kind of alienate or corner people.
Pushback.
Yeah. So hopefully
push us back in time.
Yeah, and that we can progress forward. So yeah.
Okay, I would prefer to ask this question in Sinhala. අපේ ගොඩක් කට්ටිය කියන තමයි මචං YouTube වීඩියෝ එකක් කරාට වැඩක් නැහැ, FB කරාට වැඩක් නැහැ, සල්ලි තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඕක බූස්ට් කරන්න. අපි මේක බූස්ට් කරේ නැත්නම් මේක ගොඩ යන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. So this is a current mentality most of the people have. ඕකට what you guys on සිංහලෙන්ම කිව්වොත්?
සිංහලෙන්ම කිව්වොත් මේකයි. Now we've been in the advertising industry, digital advertising industry so long. One of the tactics used by some of these, brands is that they'll create a TV commercial ඉස්සර විනාඩියකට ඒක create කරලා boost කරනවා for about $2,000 in a day, right? And obviously the video hits about 1 million views, and then they say, well, video hit 1 million views and whatnot, and put posts and whatever. But if you look at the video has only 500 shares, right? So if you take the share to view ratio, it doesn't make sense at all, right? Because obviously the 99% of the reach has come through paid reach, right? Because someone was served the ad, he probably clicked it, probably was not even interested in it, watched about 3 seconds and was like, fuck this, and closed it, right? So you boost කරන්න පුළුවන්, boost කරාට වැඩක් නැහැ. You can boost for $2,000, you can boost for $5,000. We can boost for $2,000. One of our videos may hit 1 million views in like a couple of hours and then put a post about it. But the fact of the matter is that does not do any justice to your brand, to your content, and it doesn't serve the business objective of basically getting inquiries or, getting some sales in. Nothing. It doesn't work at all. It's a waste of money, because that $2,000 you could have used on something else. So boosting doesn't really, you don't really need to boost your content. If your content is great, right? It will become viral. Like for example, the first video we put on our channel was that macho skit we did for an event, right? Obviously, api dapu gamang, the number of views we got was about like 5,000 or 10,000 views, which is very demotivating. Like, ayyo, come on, it's just a start, no? But when we checked in a couple of weeks, that video had hit 120,000 views, right? And from that is when we started getting about 5,000, 10,000 subscribers, and then we built on from there. But as soon as we put our first video, we got only about 5,000 views, and we were like, ayyo, madine. But we didn't go to boost it or whatever. But in a week or two, that bloody video had 120,000 views. So if the content is good, people will start sharing it. And virality sometimes doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes virality takes time. Virality also may come in 2 weeks, may come in a year, right? And also may have a interval and come again in another year, right? When I was in Daily Mirror, Lanka Deepa, there were these videos which we posted on social media, which did the round every year at a certain time. For example, if it was in April when it went viral, next April again that video keeps, adding another 100,000 views or 200,000 views. So it's a cycle. So it keeps going. Even for our videos, we've seen that. For example, when we put a new video out, our old videos increase in about 100,000 views, 50,000 views, 25,000 views, right? Because there are new people coming to our channel, new people finding our channel, which also works for advertisers as well, because some of the advertisers still to date, they may have advertised with us a year ago, but they still keep getting inquiries because those old videos keep getting, views. So it works really, really well. So to answer your question, boosting is a thing of the past, especially for something for us. We used to boost, but what we do is we want the content to have organic reach, because organic reach is what matters, and more so than paid reach. Once organic reach, it will reach a point and then it dies down. As soon as it dips, then you start your paid reach or your boosting or whatever, and then you give that additional push so that the video goes to more people who have not seen it.
Yeah. So just to get technical and in terms of what Gehan said, I think the fundamental thing you have to think about when you're crafting your content is how timeless that content is. A good example to what he mentioned was also the video we did for the big matches. That video every March gets a couple of thousand views, because when March Madness comes around, people are watching the video, they relate to it, they talk about it, and it might die down, but people will come back to it. And that's why even in most of our campaigns, we try to keep it as timeless as possible and put the campaign in the description of the video rather than the video itself, because that continuously brings about response to the brand, and it's not connected to a time-sensitive campaign. We've done that. It's not that we've not done that, but we try as much as possible not to do that, because we explain to the brand and say that this will continuously aggregate views, and you want your brand to be top of mind as a broader piece of content rather than it being linked to a specific campaign. So in crafting your story, think about those things, and also about the memorability of the characters, the traits, what you're trying to share as a story. Those things are what's going to get you virality, not necessarily how hard you try to make something funny or how much you try to plug a brand into it. It's not going to work. It just doesn't. It's just how it is. And no point spending thousands of dollars boosting it also if the story isn't strong enough, because you might rack up views, but those views are not real views. They are just partial views. Another thing we don't do is also, like, if you notice our videos, unlike most YouTubers, we do not ask people to subscribe to our channel, or we don't ask people to follow our videos, because that's not the point. We are not trying to gain subscribers. We're trying to share good content. If they like it, they'll subscribe. If they don't, they won't. So that's something also we stand by. So you don't need to ලක්ෂ වියදම් කරලා boost කරන එකේ කිසිම තේරුමක් නැහැ. ඊට වඩා වටිනවා memorable strong characters in message එකක් හදන එක. That's the truth.
ඔව්. නැත්නම් ඒ සල්ලි වලින් කාට හරි කන්න දෙන්න.
ඔව්. නැත්නම් ඔයා කන්න ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
That's a good one. Guys, now as we have so much of people are joining from education point of view, because this is done by Slim and mainly target towards CDM and the DDM students and the prospective students who wants to do a digital marketing program. One of the questions we have seen in the classroom, and one of the questions that even today pop up, is that is there a future for digital marketers? Is there a job value for that? Or because sometimes people have seen it as more of a gig thing where you do as a part-time thing. So being in the pioneers in the industry and being on that particular platform, what's your giveaways for those students?
As a former digital marketing lecturer, I can tell you some of the students I've had know way more about digital advertising, and they have, like, in their careers, I think they have progressed way more than I have. Being their lecturer or whatever. I've had about 3 or 4 students. Some of them now, I think one student is, working for Facebook as well. So, or doing some work for them. So, when those guys came to me for probably stage one at that point for digital marketing, I mean, they were just doing some, starting job with a starting salary. But now I think they've really progressed. I'm very proud of them. So there's a huge market for people who want to get into digital marketing, because that is the future of marketing. And it's very important that you learn. Even if you're a traditional marketer that is out there, it's very important that you learn it. Because in the next, I mean, it's pretty obvious that in the next 50 years, the digital marketing is going to surpass traditional marketing and advertising. So it's very important that you know what works and what does not work on digital platforms. It's very important that you know how to manage a digital budget as against the traditional budget. Like you manage a traditional budget, I mean, traditional marketers would know, okay, this particular amount I'm going to assign on this particular, newspaper or this particular TV channel or this particular belt or whatever. So similarly, a digital marketing advertiser also needs to know where to invest his or her money when it comes to a particular campaign. Should I go with this creator? Should I put this amount on Facebook? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Should I go with Google, or does Google advertising does not make sense for this particular business? So there are a lot of things that you can learn, and you have to learn. If you're a marketer now, I mean, you have to know digital advertising, and you have to have knowledge about it. I mean, even if you don't, even if you don't have a qualification, I think it's very important that you learn about it. And there is so much you can learn by just reading online. So
I'm not qualified in terms of teaching digital marketing like Gehan is, but I definitely had digital marketing as part of my bachelor's. And one thing though, like I think the concern, if you are a student who is trying to follow CDM or DDM, is, I think the bigger question I think in most people's mind is, how do I stand out? If a lot of people have this qualification, how do I make a mark for myself to go join the Facebooks and Googles, as Gehan mentioned? I think the main thing is also not just understanding the foundation, but also applying it when you have like a coursework, or if you have an assignment, actually dive into it and see how you can actually generate a result from it that is beneficial to you in terms of learning, as well as to that assignment in particular. The problem you're going to face in terms of later on in life also is why this qualification is so important is there's going to be a million digital marketers coming to you and telling you this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, and you need to be able to tell them that no, that's not how it's done. What the hell are you talking about? I mean, we have a million fakes trying to tell you what you need to do and run off with your money. So it's important to know what they're talking about, and that is why these programs are so important. Because if someone comes and gives you a digital marketing strategy or SEO strategy that has posts like "Good morning, have a great Friday," I mean, it's not going to generate any conversions to your brand or to your product. So understanding really how it would work, understanding like the inner workings of digital marketing, that's why these programs are so important to follow and understand, because then you won't fall for the fakes, and you'll be able to call them out when they come your way in whatever business environment or context you're in. So yeah, I think it's very important that.
Yeah, that also, to add to that, I think there are a lot of digital marketing gurus out there. So
who
you have
don't
to pick
know what
and
they're talking
choose.
about. Yeah.
You have to pick and choose who you follow.
Right, guys. So adding on to one of the questions, this is a very bit of a interesting one we have got on the Q&A. How do we promote a small business? Especially this one have asked about photographs. So what we have seen recently is that so much of small people, they're starting their individual business and all. So what kind of a input that you want to give for them? I know we spoke about quite a lot on content development, but for a person who just want to start off a kickstart a small business, what kind of advice you will give?
I think if it depends on what sort of business as well. For example, if it's like if you're a baker, for example, Instagram is, there's no question you have to be on Instagram, and Instagram is a great way to start. Not even Facebook. Facebook won't really do much for your business, but Instagram will. Even if you're like, because my wife does online tutoring, she does IELTS, and she has a page, and quite a number of inquiries come through that. So if you're a small and medium enterprise owner, let's say a baker, a salon, whatever, it's very important that you are active on these channels, and it's very important that you have someone employed, or even if you're the owner, it's important that you know how to handle these platforms and to ensure you have enough engagements to generate inquiries on those platforms. So I think Instagram is a huge platform for small and medium businesses. So that's where you need to start, I think. Not TikTok, but Instagram is a great platform to be on. So yeah.
Yeah, you definitely don't want someone dancing with your like baked products to a music video.
Yeah.
But I think also if you're looking at like what Gehan mentioned, if you're looking at a product that is delivery oriented, another thing you can do is make other people work for you. Like let's say you tie up with a logistics partner like Pick Me or Uber, they run their own campaign. So maybe running a promo code with them, targeting their SMS bases and seeing how you can get reach through that. Maybe giving a 1-for-1 offer. I mean, that is discount driven, but you can use your logistics partners to also promote your brand indirectly. And like Gehan mentioned, if you're on Instagram and people actually see your product with some really nice product shots or see your service, it'll be easier to generate inquiries and see how it can create more traction. The next question would be influencers, because influencers are the easiest way for an SME to get their word out there. But you need to really pick your influencers. If there are influencers who are marketing everything from like eggs to soap to chicken to whatever, there's no point. You need to understand which influencers work in your category and the ones who can generate the kind of traction you want. And then maybe working with one or two on the long term would be better than trying to work with everybody at the same time. So I mean, those are some of the strategies I guess you could employ.
It's all about the audience.
Yeah.
So you can choose your audience and who you want to cater to.
Yeah.
But having said that, I mean, even on TikTok, if you plan it properly and you create some great content, I think you can generate something off TikTok as well. Definitely. I mean, we're not putting down the platform in any way. But if you have a new idea, any sort of, we are not on the platform, but we've seen some of the stuff. But if there is an innovative way of getting TikTok content out there to work for your brand, it can work wonders. So yeah.
Guys, we are almost coming to end of the discussion. Actually, it's been 1 hour and we don't even know about it. But before we go on, there's two interesting questions that I want to ask. The first one I will ask first. Now, one of the challenges that we see in the current context is that youngsters are quite into digital savvy. They do a lot of things. And when you take the managers and the CEOs, they're not up to digital marketing yet. So definitely when you work with so much of brands that you might have to convince the key people to go ahead on a digital platform. So how do you address this, and what kind of advice you give to a person who is trying to tackle a certain problem like that?
Talk to their kids. I mean, yeah, actually for us, whenever we walk into like a meeting, most of the CEOs or directors would say that my son or my daughter loves your stuff, has shown your stuff to me, and that's how they know us. Like basically their kids have gone and showed them our videos or whatever, and then they've seen an interest in, okay, it's branding as well, maybe my brand can use this. So that's how our content gets across to them. But yeah, I think now though in 2020, I think most CEOs and directors, I think everyone knows that digital is very important, and and also when it comes to digital, your profitability is very, very high, like if you get it right. But of course, again with digital, you can't make a thumping amount of money. Like for example, I was at Vijay for about 8 years. What the newspaper makes when it comes to advertising, digital makes like 1/10 of that. So sometimes even less. And no matter how much we pushed, we'd always be at that 1/10. But our profitability was way more. We had like a 35% profitability rate as against the newspaper, where the profit margins are very, very thin. If you know the newspaper business, obviously every unit is produced at a cost, and whatever we make is off advertising. So basically, the profit margins are very, very thin. But that profit margin, even though it's like a small percentage, could be in like the billions. Whereas when it comes to digital marketing, will only be in like the few millions, and also 1/10 of that particular amount. But the profit margins are huge. So which means you have to put more effort to make that kind of money. But yeah, so it really works for new businesses, but for traditional businesses that have been there, they have to make those calls, those difficult calls. Are we going full digital? If we are going digital, we are not going to make that kind of money. So it depends. But I think in the next 5-10 years, I think all of this will change. I think with COVID also, a lot of these companies they've been forced to figure their online strategy out. Like for example, the supermarkets, everyone has probably now thinks, okay, shit, maybe we should have had a proper website, a proper this thing in place before COVID, and we could have avoided a lot of disappointments for customers and whatever. We have seen a couple of brands come out of it and do really, really well. But I think now a lot of CEOs, directors, they're properly focusing on digital, because it's it's either you adapt or you die. You die. Yeah.
But one thing we have seen is, I think, even in terms of management in most companies, I think that generational gap is reducing, because no longer do you have the founders, successors or people who come in afterwards are generally more digital savvy, and then our generations onwards you'll have the natives coming in. But I think the fundamentally one very good thing you can do with digital is you can show the numbers. Look at this channel. This is the number of subscribers it has. This is how many views a video has. Of this video views, if even 10% convert for us, that is this much in sales, and that amounts to this much. So when you compare the cost per view or the advertising expenditure with other mediums, you can really rationalize and build a case. Because with management, more often than not, especially directors and CEOs, it's numbers. They are looking at how profitable can you make it? If I'm investing X, how much return do I get in terms of what I'm investing? So the numbers are there on digital, and you can show them those numbers as opposed to other mediums, which is to your advantage. Second thing Gehan mentioned was quite right about kids. Don't ever forget that you need to invest in future markets. And that's why Instagram is great, because that is where your future market is. For us, the reason it's open doors is, like you mentioned, kids talk to their parents. It's a simple thing. It's been there for a long time. If you're buying a vehicle for your family, the kids have a huge say, because they are going to be in that vehicle for a long time. So the company owners need to also think about how they cater to kids. Even if you look at big brands like Emirates and airlines that have been really successful over the past couple of years, they give kids toys because they know when that kid has that toy forever, it's imprinted on their mind that this is Emirates, 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 with every toy, every character. So they grow up loving that brand, and because of that, they generally tend to invest in it more subliminally without thinking too much about it. So focusing on future markets and also understanding the numbers game, I think, are two very important things if you're going to convince a senior management. Yeah.
Okay. The final question, guys, is that we spoke about a lot of content creation. We spoke about a lot of do's and don'ts. One of the few questions people have asked is that how does you guys take your creative space? How you use your time to come up with creative concept? Any hints that you want to pass?
Top one.
Business එකටම ආවා.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, when it comes to some of these ideas, they just pop up sometimes in our head, and we'd call each other and say, "Ado, mata idea thina, may shall we work on this kela?" Like for example, basically when we were driving one day after some meeting, is when we got a call from a client saying, we want to do this sort of video, and then we were thinking, okay, monad karan, and then we were like, what if we do a zombie apocalypse based shit? And then we were like, bad production, ambo, pissu hede, we can't produce a fucking zombie movie. It's gonna be, we gotta create like a set, we gotta create like this, that, everything, like turmoil, fucking devastation, everything, which is not going to cut it because we can't produce it, we don't have the budgets. And then we went back and we thought as to how we can minimize it within that budget and create a zombie comedy. And that's when we came up with the Zombie Lanka thing.
And we thought of making it the onset of a zombie apocalypse, so that things aren't like destroyed and ruined. It's the onset.
Onset. It's starting. It is the start of the zombie apocalypse. One guy in a house, and he wakes up.
What
and
would
a
happen
zombie has entered.
Yeah,
that's it. So that was the idea, and basically that's how we started. Sometimes, I mean, when it comes to writing, I think both of us have a bit of an issue. May අපිට control කරගන්න බෑ. සමහර වෙලාවට we just keep writing, and sometimes we write and we're like satisfied, and then when we shoot it, we've shot freaking 11 or 12 minutes of it, and it's like really long. And sometimes we'll have to omit stuff, and then make hard calls and say මේ scene එක අයින් කරන්න වෙනවා. Right. So we've done a lot of that for most of our videos. But when it comes to the creative process, I think one of the things we have is that we watch a lot of stuff. Like, for example, both of us are movie buffs, and we watch a lot of series, we watch a lot of TV, we watch a lot of movies, and we draw inspiration from all these things we have watched. For example, like things we watched when we were kids, we draw a lot of inspiration from, right? Like there are so many things we have probably taken into account. Like even the creative idea, for example, for A-level Taraha, it was an actual incident that happened in my class, right? It was not for A-levels. It was like a normal exam, and it happened, I think, when we were in year 9 or year 10. One rugged fellow asked the first in class, "Ado mata uttara deepang," and then uttara pennuwa mu liyagatta mu giya gaman aru mekuwa. Magala mekuwa, and we all saw this, and this was like a distant memory which I had. And when I met up with my classmates, those buggers while drinking came up saying, "Me adu mata matagada midita me karvade," and aman namat kiyo shit. But yeah. And then I just noted it down on my Google Docs, and next day I spoke to Dino and said, "Ado, me katha hapan, shall we convert this into like a video?" And that's when we did it.
We have a Google Keep shared file where we list down ideas. We call it the idea hub or whatever. So Gehan writes an idea, I write an idea. We see something interesting in a movie, we write it down. Something we can draw inspiration from. Like for example, the zombie apocalypse video was inspired a lot by Shaun of the Dead. We both love that movie, and it has a cricket bat. It's set in England, and the characters are very memorable. That's why we have a cricket bat in our video as well. And we want to make it homage to Shaun of the Dead. So like those kind of things you can draw inspiration
from. We shot it also like that.
Exactly.
We shot it. We use the usual shots Edgar Wright uses at the start. If you watch it, we use the exact Shaun of the Dead shots. But even Shaun of the Dead copied it from Evil Dead, which is Sam Raimi's movie. So basically, it's playing homage to all of our like horror movies we love. So
it's repackaged, and a lot of the things are that way. I mean, you draw inspiration from it. You don't copy it word for word, but you draw inspiration from it and make it your own, and you localize it, and you make it interesting.
Yeah.
And that's something we've been very happy that we've been able to do. Also, Gehan and I, like I said, we are two people who are pretty similar in a lot of things in how we grew up. So we really vibe with each other really well. So if you're working with somebody as a partner, it's important that you all are not on a conflicting path, but you align. Yes, you will have conflicts and differences in idea, but you need to compromise and understand that you want it to be the best it can be, and let go and keep what's good, let go of the rest. And like you said, we are not sentimental sometimes as much as we want to keep something. If you want to take it out to save a piece, we do that. A good example of that was Ole Tara, actually. That was a scene shot as part of a supermarket video. We shot a supermarket video, and Ole Taraha was a scene we shot as part of that. But the people who are involved said that it might be too long, might make the video too lengthy. So we just thought, okay, let's make that a separate video. O-level results are coming up. Let's put it up for the O-level results and wish people who've passed. And that blew up. That was our first kind of professionally shot or like unbranded bit of content. And it blew up like it blew up like crazy. And people spoke to us about it and stuff like that. So there's always a point where you can sometimes even use those excerpts in other things. And you can connect videos in different ways. But the main thing is to have a common ground if you're working with partners. Next thing is, if you have a great idea, note it down and try and use it. And the final thing is test audiences. We always run it by people to see people we trust who will give us honest feedback and won't just tell us what we want to hear. If it's shit, they say it's crap, take it out. It doesn't work, and we do it. So that's important, because then you know whether it works or it won't work. Because if not, you're just putting out something that you feel will work, and that's the death of great content, because what's funny to you might not be funny to someone else. So that's very important.
And we have a process that has been, which we always go through. So for example, if we take the video, we shoot it today, then we go into the editing room. We treat it as a movie, almost a mini movie. We go into editing, then we go into sound mixing, and then we test it with people. We show it to them. We check, okay, what's their reaction to it? Is it not great? Is it failing? Does it need to be snappier? Does it need to be tighter? Does this scene not work? So most of our friends and family members are always put through that. My wife always is put through that. Goes through that, because I'm like always, hounding her, saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? But that's all done to ensure that. And also she's very blunt about it, so it's pretty good. And all our friends are also very blunt. They'll be like, "Mega fail ba, mega hariyanne." So you can like fix it before we finally show it to people. And I think it's very important that it goes through that, because I think creators and people always get caught up in their own little worlds, thinking make now a pattama, and then they only judge what they feel is right, but that shouldn't be the case. You should have test audiences, watch it and tell you, give feedback, maybe fix it. Similar to what, a movie release, when a movie release happens in even Hollywood, people watch it again and again, Bollywood, whatever, they watch it, fix it, change it, and then come to the final cut. So that is very important that you go through that. And being self-critical is very, very important in this business, especially if you're in the creative field. You'll be very self-critical and say, okay, I did this video, it is not great. I did this video, I'm fucking proud of that shit. Like, for example, Dino and I, to this day, we're so proud about the video we did for Ceylonta, which is Office Horror Police, which we wrote on a normal office day. After work at 5:30 or 6 at my downstairs. We have a table downstairs at my place. We call it the lucky writers table. Round table. Where we sit and we write, and Ethana Leoneva always works. And also in this room we write where I'm sitting now. Eket Samareva works. Samareva works, but downstairs on that table, whatever we have written, how to balance your baba, Office Horror Police, to so many things have really, really become like viral sensations. But to get to that writing style of Office Horror Police, now we have like a science or like an algorithm almost on how the content needs to be created. To to get to that point, we had to experiment with so much content. Like, for example, we did like 10, 15 videos before we came to that particular video, which I feel is the proper home run when it comes to a viral video, where we covered everything. Like it is in our book, it is one of our most perfect videos. And where every time we create a new video, we're trying to reach up to that, or we're trying to make it better than that. And that's the other thing when it comes to this industry. You have to always try to better yourself. Don't get caught up in your, okay, I did this video, oh my god, that is the best video. If you do the video, it's done, fuck that, move on. Now you've got to create something way better that will blow people's minds, and they'll be like, oh my fucking god, how did they come up with this shit? So that is basically what drives us. And we want to keep bettering ourselves at this, so much so that hopefully one day we can properly make a movie for people, and movies and series and whatnot. So yeah,
That's a plan. Yeah,
that is the plan. That is the plan.
So thank you guys. It was a pleasure to have you guys today, and man, it's been 1 hour and 15 minutes and we are still discussing. It's quite interesting actually. So the final thing that you want to share with our audience for today, the certificate in digital marketing and diploma in digital marketing students and the prospects who wants to do the program. So what's the final takeaway thing that you want to share with them?
Dino?
Okay. So first of all, we'd like to say, before we go, we want to say thank you to Slim. Thank you to the team. Thank you so much for having us. And thank you, Pragit, for being here with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. The thing about digital marketing is, in today's day and age, it's equivalent to O-levels, A-levels. You need it. If you're going to run a business, if you're going to get involved with the business, if you're going to be a brand manager, if you're even going to be involved in some form in a product or a service, you need to understand how to propagate that on a digital medium of some form, be it social media, SEO, so on and so forth. So understanding the fundamentals are key. But always remember, the power of a great piece of content is the story. So make sure that your story is strong, and use the expertise you gain from programs like this to amplify that story if you are looking at content marketing. When it comes to product marketing and so on and so forth, I'm sure the course covers that to a great extent. We are talking from a content perspective. But use these tools to amplify that content, but fundamentally craft a great piece of content. Remember, the stories and characters are important, and be self-critical, self-aware, and also see about how you can address things that are more than just the brand message. Have a social message in there. Talk to people on their lines. Don't talk down on them. Talk to them at the same level, or even raise them up and inspire them. That's something you can do. But more than anything, if you're an aspiring content creator, understand that these courses help what you're trying to do. To us, it has, in the little way we've learned digital marketing in our own way, it's helped us figure out how to amplify our content better and improve it also in terms of content creation, durations, and so many other metrics we look at. So yeah, all the best in whatever you hope to do. And I'm sure these programs will help you get to where you want to get as well. But thank you so much to Slim for having us. Anything to add, Blocky?
Yeah. Just basically, if you have the right skills, if you know that if you have the skills to write, if you have the skills to act, if you have the skills to direct, to tell amazing stories or anything for that matter, try everything, do it. Because once you do it, only you will understand, okay, are you good at it or are you not? So try it out. There are so many things which we tried. We have tried so many things and finally ended up here. We did so many small things which actually shaped us get to where we are today. Shaped us to becoming these content creators. So if you have skills, make them better. Always try and better it. Always try and better your skill. Become better. It's like Kumar Sangakkara when he started his career and how he ended it. The batsman he was when he joined the team, then the batsman he left are two very different players. If you take Steve Smith, same thing. If you take AB de Villiers, same thing. When they started their careers as batsmen and how they are now or how they ended it is like because they worked at their game, even Kohli. So similarly, even us as creators or whatever, you have to always try and better yourself. And you may fail, you may have really bad days, you may fuck up, and that's part of the whole process of digital marketing. It's okay to fuck up, learn from it, burn your fingers, but if you think that this is what you want to do with your life, pursue it. Don't get demotivated. You are bound to fail, but please, if you know if you trust your gut and you know that this is what I want to do with my life, like for example, both of us know that we want to make movies. That was I think that's why we were put on this earth. Or to entertain people. So if you know that is what you want to do and that's what makes you happy in life do it, because we have only one life. So pursue whatever you love. That's it.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being part of today's discussion, and wish you guys all the very best.
Thank you.
And looking forward for the COVID video, post-COVID video, and I'm looking very much forward to see a movie with you guys. Actually, that will be quite interesting thing to see.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
And I hope you will do it pretty soon. And so thank you so much. And now we'd like to thank all our participants for today for being with us and being part of this very interesting and thought-provoking discussion we had today. And we'd like to thank the Slim management team and the people who run the certificate in digital marketing and the diploma in digital marketing team for organizing this event. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to see you guys again, and be safe and stay COVID-free. Thanks. See you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.